Well, howdy, nearly senior citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this, a brand new day of me talking with my hands again, holding them in the air like I just don't care. It has been dark this morning, and there is some fog that I can see through the trees, so it's probably going to be very overcast. It was cold last night. Thank goodness. I even had to wear one of my plaid shirts with the sleeves rolled down because it was so cold. It was nice. I liked that a lot. Unfortunately, I did not sleep well. I had insomnia. I can't take Benadryl every night to sleep because there's a rebound effect. So last 2 nights I haven't used Benadryl, and I was awake at 5 with discomfort and tossing and turning. So joy. And of course, front-loading of videos. If you could toss me a like, that'd be very cool. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be awesome. If you could leave me a comment, that would be double plus good. And I would like to thank each and every one of these Patreon patrons. These are literally beautiful and literally awesome people that are helping to keep me and my aging pet alive. If my aging pet could thank you, she would. I do thank you for helping to keep me and my aging pet alive. If you would like to become a patron and help keep me and my aging pet alive, I have links in the video description, along with a PayPal for possible donations, an Amazon wish list link for, well, it's got aging pet food on it. Well, not aging pet food, but food for aging pets. And there's a post office box where if you send me anything at all, I'll show it off on camera. I only ask for postcards and keychains. Well, hey, front loading a video is over. Yay. Yeah, insomnia. Pretty bad last night. So it was like 12:30 when I got to bed, and I actually fell asleep pretty quickly. But then before 5 o'clock, I was already tossing and turning. And then when I noticed the time, it was around 5 o'clock. And even though I wasn't really feeling any pain or actual discomfort, I was having to flip and flop and turn every 5 minutes. So finally I was up and out of bed at 5:30, so joy, finding it difficult to think. Plus therapy today, so that's good. Online therapy since my vehicle stopped working several years ago. It's just broken down in our driveway and the interior is filled with mold. Joy. Still though, life is life. There are some things I want to talk about. Some of them, most of it just kind of silly stuff because of my insomnia and inability to think. And ever since a month ago, I went cold turkey off of my antidepressant, which is also an ADHD med, Wellbutrin. I have not been able to get back on top of my ADHD ever since, even though I am remedicated ever since. I am coming up on being 3 weeks medicated, and I feel next to non-medicated. It is so hard to think and concentrate again. Still doing my very best, and hopefully you are doing well as well. So let me check my list here. Now, there is oh, that's a lot of just waiting there. I've only got things like here with the no more Wizards of the Coast stuff. Wizards of the Coast came out with a blanket statement from a low-level person that no one has ever heard from before so that they could be the lightning rod for all the criticism that's coming in. And it was a non-statement, very corporate speak. At least this one wasn't filled with snark. Like their first response was. The problem is, as much as these things sound good on paper, they're corporate speak, from the leaks of the people inside, the idea was they were just going to ride this out. They weren't going to say a thing ever about this until they had the 40,000 plus unsubscriptions so far. That, from the people that work inside Wizards of the Coast, are saying this is the only reason that they came out to say anything at all. Because as much as they talk about the community, the people in charge, the suits at Hasbro, they just viewed the consumer as an obstacle between Hasbro and the consumer's money. there's no community. They don't care about the product or you. It's, capitalism. So, Joy? And let me take a look on more of this. This one, I can see the utility of it, and yet I also don't. Because they are going to be the plan was with their D&D Beyond and all this, where they're going into the future with their virtual stuff, where you can have an AI as a dungeon master. In some ways, I can see that. If you don't want to play solo by yourself, and you want to be in a group, being in an online group with an AI dungeon master could be okay-ish. The problem with the machine language algorithm so far is they're just designed to, they're not deep. They're designed to be very, very bright and shiny, but shallow. They can't be deep. These aren't actual people, even though on a surface level, and possibly even more than that, they could fool you, the old Turing test. But one of the things that happens, especially if you're one of the organic type dungeon masters, like I'm doing with my Cryptid setting, is something that you thought of ages back that's been sitting in your mind. That one named NPC from something, you realize, the things that have been happening are that NPC. And then you start really building things around that, and all the back behind stuff. And machine language algorithm isn't going to be able to do that. It's not designed to do that. It's not going to be deep. It could be very, very wide, but it'll be very, very shallow. Which can be okay, depending on the setting. I just don't think you should pay $500 a year to gain access to that, which of course is what Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro wants you to do. So thumbs up. And then, because I like the game Postal and Postal 2 and Postal 4 and Postal Brain Damaged, the whole Postal series from Running with Scissors, I want to talk a little bit about this. Because there's all sorts of goofy stuff, and I watched this one. It wasn't a deep video, but it did talk about one thing that I thought was halfway interesting. Because the game Postal 1, while halfway amusing, if you look at some of the stuff funny, it's not a funny game. It's the Postal dude is really doing horrible, horrible things all the time, constantly. And then when you come to Postal 2, suddenly it's a completely tonal shift. There's a lot more silliness and goofiness, and you can play the game Postal 2 totally passive as a pacifist. You don't have to do anything bad. You can play the game and never kill anybody. So you can just do it just fine without hurting people. But the company Running with Scissors that makes Postal is also an entity within the game Postal 2. So, in fact, in the beginning of the game, your character, the Postal dude, is called up to Running with Scissors to pick up their paycheck and then be told they're fired by Vince Desi of Running with Scissors, who's Vince Desi is the actual person in charge of Running with Scissors. So they're in the game, and one of these theories about lore and all that is that Postal 1 is the game made by Running with Scissors in the game Postal 2. So the game Postal 1 that you play was made by the Postal 2 Running with Scissors. And so that's why there's the big tonal shift in the games. Thumbs up. There are all sorts of really weird silliness things that they still have now. If you don't have the Postal series and you like first-person shooters and you like goofiness and, of course, horrific violence and murder, you should pick up the Postal series. Especially Postal 4 if you have a system that can do it. It's just like Postal 2 except modern stuff, and I like it. Just like Postal 2, though, it's getting very bad reviews right now, but I think it's going to get better because they're constantly working on these. They're still coming out with patches and stuff for Postal 2. So, thumbs up. Now, of course, I'm going to talk a bit more about the whole cryptid setting for my inside, outside, razor's edge, and cryptid stuff. There is stuff that I do think about that I don't really get a chance to talk about. Some of it's really minor, some of it's pretty major, some of it is... Everything impacts everything else within the setting. So if I change one thing, it's going to alter a bunch of other things that I have to come to fuller and more complete understanding. I've talked before about how the ruler of South Carolina, Brookerton, the fictional town on the fictional Samadan River, with the largest concentration of cryptids in South Carolina, King Mike is a ghoul and is in charge. Not so much because anybody wants to have a king, or that because King Mike wants to be king, but because the reason there is a Khmer Rouge Manor in Paul Park in the first place is because 125 years back there was a guy named Thomas McGregor, and he was a very vile individual. After a lot of disappearances from human and cryptid, he and his estate was ganged up on, and he was dragged out by people of the city, and they just murdered him. And when they went inside of his mansion and they found the stuff on the basements underneath, it was horrific. There were various SA crimes that, led to death and more. And there was so much blood, so much pain, so much suffering, so much death. There was created a presence from the cryptid energy and this focus of agony. When Thomas McGregor died, he was a part of this presence without knowing it. There is a trio of parts: their body, presence, and mind. And Thomas McGregor was body and mind. So the entity, the thing created, was the presence. As soon as he died, this thing that is basically a machine, it's not really alive, but it has like emergency refueling procedures, and it is powered by blood and death and suffering. And without that being provided by Thomas McGregor, whenever its fuel reserves ran low, the emergency refueling procedure would pop in, and it would zap someone out in the park with just a and horrific violence, terror, and death right there that would just horrify everybody. And it was getting so bad because it's just an emergency procedure. It's not very efficient. It's like topped off. A little bit comes down and top it off. A little bit comes down and top it off. And people are getting ready to just leave Brookerton entirely 125 years back. Mike, the ghoul, is about 200 and some odd years old about this time, which is middle-aged for a ghoul. And he's about a little bit under 5 feet tall. He's got the green skin and the spiky black hair, totally unruly, going in every different direction. Typical ghoul. But at this point, because everyone's panicking and getting ready to leave, he goes into Pol Pot Manor, Khmer Rouge Manor, heads downstairs and actually discovers this thing and becomes a part of it. It was this presence, and the presence needed the body and mind. And after he found the body, King Mike, Mike at this point just still, after reuniting the two of them with that process, he became part of the whole thing. He is the mind. Thomas McGregor's body is the body, and the presence is the presence, the will. And unfortunately for Mike and all that, he has to periodically feed this thing to keep its energy reserves up so that it doesn't go into emergency refueling. Everybody thinks that he's had a huge battle with this thing, and the only way to keep it under control is to feed it. He does not tell everyone that, no, there was no battle. It just needed something, and he became a part of it. But now, after 125 years, he is really worried about this thing, because as he became more attuned to it, it opened up more of its abilities to him. It is perfectly happy just to run. sit there in idle and exist. Whether it is doing something or just idling, it doesn't care. It's a machine. But it's been opening up to him to show him what's available to it. And at this point in the story, the presence beneath the manor is effectively a nuclear missile silo, in that you can aim it, press the fire button, and it will nuke the living fuck out of whatever you point it at. Now, past that, all comparisons are gone. But King Mike is worried because, well, when he dies, who's going to be in charge of this thing? And it is that nuclear missile silo that you can just aim and start pressing the fire button, and yeah, it will go. But the thing is, ghouls live about 300 years, and he was around 200-ish back when he first got in charge of this thing and became King Mike instead of just Mike, Big Mike. You know, under 5 feet tall, of course he's Big Mike. So he's worried about the thing, and when he looks in the mirror, at about 275, you start showing real signs of age as a ghoul. Your hair starts turning gray, you get wrinkles, your skin color starts to fade, you get the aches, the pains, old age stuff. Around 300, 325, 325 is no ghoul has ever really lived past that. But King Mike, when he looks in the mirror, he's at least 300. He doesn't remember his exact birth date. Ghouls don't really care about birthdays. But his hair is still jet black, and he has no wrinkles. He has no cataracts in his eyes. He has nothing to indicate that he is anything more than just a middle-aged ghoul, which worries him because he didn't tell the presence to change him so that he wouldn't get older. He didn't tell it to do this, and it did it. And he didn't feel it happening. He only noticed it because he didn't appear to be getting older. So if the presence has changed him in this fashion, and he didn't know it, what else has the presence changed in him that he doesn't know about? So yeah, thumbs up on that. So Cat's King Mike in charge of this lunatic asylum of Brookerton, South Carolina's cryptid population. Is there anything else real quick that I wanted to talk about here? Well, just real quick. The cryptid digestive tract is in fact a terrifying thing. Generally, if a cryptid wants to devour you and they strip your body before they do so, it's only because flavor. Most plastics, most metals, most things like that ain't gonna hurt them. They're just gonna digest them, and if it's something that's really dangerous, it'll just be encapsulated and then it'll pass on through them. They can, if you can even be talking on a phone, a cell phone, and they can just quickly jump out of the bushes and devour you and accidentally eat your phone, they'll digest most of it. The battery will be encapsulated, it will pass through their bodies. Maybe a little bit of glass will pass through, but most of it just gets digested. They can drink most poisons and not even notice that it was anything other than water. They can drink most toxins, and if it's really bad, then they'll puke and be fine. The really bad stuff, and especially radiation and a lot of acids, that will do a number on them. But past that, they have absolutely terrifying digestive tracts, which is why when they eat a 150-pound human being, there ain't much to get rid of at the very, very end. And of course, I've opened up 24 hours worth of comments on my community tab. Going to go through and thank however many people have left me comments in the past 24 hours. It's never many anymore. Thank you, though, to each and every person who does leave me a comment. It is appreciated. If I mispronounce a username, no disrespect is intended, and even though I count in American Sign Language, Jesse Koskinen, thumbs up and good to see you in the comments. Here, Chalky with good ideas. I actually thought about that. I'm hopefully going to be doing something with water here very, very soon. Jayy, thumbs up, thank you and good to see you. Chris, greatly appreciated. Flora Mute, thank you and good to see you. Josh Sonabria, Golden Souls, I have not been able to afford yet. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. And then we have RJ Mitchell. And we have RJ Mitchell. Good to see you in the comments as well. And here's hoping. I like the game Dungeons and Dragons. The game itself will never die. WotC and Hasbro, though, they can be nuked into oblivion, and I'd be happy as well. And then we have Simon Hughes, and that is it. Looks like 8 people who left me comments in the past 24 hours. Thumbs up, thank you. You get me out of my head, into the world, and dealing with real people. If only for a very short time, and if only in text, but thumbs up and thank you. It is appreciated. Well, as stated, I have therapy today, so hokey smokes, it's going to be a day that I'm glad I have something I only need to edit and get ready, because likely I wouldn't be able to record. Yay! Therapy isn't bad, it's just that stuff gets pulled up that needs to settle back down afterward. And with everything happening in the world here today, here's hoping you can take care of yourself. Practice self-care. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get things done. Survival is important. And of course, if people are getting sick where you are, try to take precautions. I mean, it's still a good idea. And of course, if people are getting hurt where you are, car accidents, weaponry, or natural disasters, try to stay away from those areas so you don't get hurt. And if you're out walking at night, or any time really, and you do hear the mournful howl of that bus horn, the bus with your name on it, really, all you can do is either brace for impact or just hope it's going to hit someone else, because yeah, your number's up. You're gonna die. So, until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and that is indeed a very good thing.